we'll leave about 10 minutes for questions from the audience at this point, but let's give it the mic so you guys can see.
Sorry to rush. Yes.
You talk about a lot about teachers' roles, but I haven't listened your talk about teacher constructing identity. So
Yeah.
what do you think?
So, like, what's the connection between teacher roles and teacher identity?
Related to the identity, then what are your priorities?
Yeah, so that would be something, as you can see, number one, future research direction to clarify for me. That's something that's not totally clear for me, but I feel like they're very much linked because I feel like when I've taught online and environments online, I do feel like a very different teacher than when I teach face-to-face in a lot of subtle ways. But no, I didn't have time to examine that, and of course not in this presentation. But I am really interested. I think there is a connection between the roles we enact and the identity we internalize. I generally think of identity as more internal, and I think of roles as more external, but I don't think that's necessarily true either. So that's the question for sure. That needs to happen to clarify. Thanks.
When the teachers go into the online forum,
Yeah.
how do they identify themselves? What roles do they declare to the audience?
Sure. Do you mean, are they like anonymous? Is that what kind of?
No. For instance, like in online teaching, for instance, people go in as the starter, the provocateur, etc. and whatnot. So how do the teachers go in? How do they declare as their roles in the classroom?
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm totally understanding, but they definitely know, the students know that they are teachers. When they're on there, they have their names and a little picture beside, so every time each student or teacher contributes, their picture and their name kind of showed up. And sort of this entire presentation was kind of about that, which roles they declared. Sometimes, what I found is they negotiated a multiplicity of roles. So sometimes they were very much the question askers and they were genuine in their questions. Sometimes they were question askers, but they more asked questions in order to kind of like get to a different point that they wanted to push the students to. Other times they actually answered misconceptions, and I know I totally rushed through that. So, but yeah, they played a huge variety of kind of roles. They didn't declare just one. I did notice that there were kind of 3 adult players, 3 teachers in my research, and I did notice you could tell which one kind of made each comment. I mean, you could kind of tell, like one was a little bit more teacherly in a traditional sense, another was a little bit more student-like and kind of just got into the conversation. So that was interesting to see, but really everyone kind of changed roles depending on what they wanted to say at that moment.
Yeah. So, quick follow-up question. What were the roles that for those who declared, they asked students to play? What were that you saw that was different or similar to face-to-face classes?
Well, I didn't, so this wasn't a comparative study. I didn't actually look at a face-to-face class discussion and then compare it to a virtual, so I can't discuss too well on that, but my hunch is that the teachers were involved a lot less. All 3 teachers mentioned we try to hold back because we really want this to be a student-driven space. And that is in consensus with the literature. In general, students play the role a lot, talk a lot more when it's virtual than when it's face-to-face.
So was that explicitly stated by those teachers? Or?
Yeah, the teachers explicitly said that but as far as their declared role, none of them ever said, I am here to ask questions. It was all implicit, it was all sort of relational and conversational. So actually, I can't think of any time any of the 3 of them had a declared role where it was like explicit, I'm here to do this. It was sort of just like, I'm going to join in on the conversation. Yeah.
So, Julie, you mentioned you were using repeatedly discourse analysis and participant analysis. So, I'm wondering if you could sketch for us just how that looks in an online environment.
Sure.
I'm thinking about some kinds of participation analysis in classrooms where you'd have the overhearer or you might have the person who starts the conversation. We can track those pretty easily, but use timestamps.
Yeah.
Or do you have a tree kind of analysis?
Yeah, good question. What did I do with all that data? Yeah. So what I ended up doing was I sort of tracked. I had every single teacher comment kind of written out and, typed, whatever, copied and pasted out. And then what I did is I sort of coded it for asking a question or, posing another question or clarifying misconception. And then what I ended up doing, obviously was sort of narrowing them down and saying, okay, this kind of fits here and this kind of fits here. So that's where I started. I actually just started with teacher. I kind of ignored the students and I just cut and pasted the teacher's participation. And then I realized, but what I'm really interested in is what are the students doing when the teachers participate? How are they reacting? And so then I would notice the teacher asks a question and then, 3 more people get involved. That's kind of interesting. And I didn't have enough time with this research to do much, but that's something that I'm interested in, looking at the links between the student and teacher participation. I did it more informally through looking at, and then, okay, a teacher participated, now I'm going to look at what the students did, and that's where I got that last sort of set of categories as far as
Yeah,
students.
this is more like a thematic
Yes.
content analysis, and then you might want to move into interaction to see what they
Yes.
how.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Thanks.
Along those lines, if I may suggest, Garrison, Anderson, and Archer.
Oh,
as
okay.
Social presence, teacher presence.
Yes, that would be
cognitive
great.
presence,
Yeah.
all those things, they chart it and map.
Yeah.
And that might be a useful reference.
I think so.
point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Talking about student identities as well, did you at all look at student culture or just classroom culture?
Yeah.
And we,
I didn't accept beyond the fact that just kept coming up, which was my class is a class of honor students.
Yeah.
My class is, and I didn't mean to go into that at all. I wasn't looking for that, but just by way of the interviews, that kept coming up. That there were a lot of tensions in that, and that was the whole section I cut out of the complications that happened from the collaboration, because it was really interesting. You're right, the dynamics between sort of the two cultures was both really educative for the students involved, but also kind of messy at times. So that would be great to look at too, more in depth. Yeah.
And just very briefly, the role of teacher experience with each of these, because I'm assuming
Right.
some had more limited experience,
Yes.
some had extensive, also before technology and, with technology. So
Right.
both of those phases would probably inform the teacher and construct their identities in different ways as to how they would go about leading that discussion or engaging in the discussion. So that might be
Yeah. Great.
I know you talked about this at the beginning, but I kind of didn't catch it. Or I was wondering how the teachers got involved themselves with the project in the first place.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think what happened is this little grant committee and the participatory assessment network, the IU kind of group, sort of sent out invitations to the school corporations saying this is what we're going to do, who's interested. And generally the teachers that were like into this stuff already got excited. And so there were also a few teachers that were really reluctant but got kind of like pulled on by their colleagues, like, this is great, you'll get laptops and you'll learn. And so there were 2 or 3 sort of more reluctant at the meetings. There were 2 or 3 more reluctant technology teachers, and then I'd say 7 or 8. There were around like 10 to 15 teachers, 7 or 8 teachers that were really like, we love technology. We've already done a ton of things, and they were really knowledgeable. So I think it was volunteer.
Was it like a single chat? Were they all just, was it one conversation, or there was like separate?
That's a good question. Yeah. So it was asynchronous. First of all, I should have mentioned, and so it was at different times. They just kind of got on the class. The whole class would get on during school, but the different classes had different period times, so they wouldn't be on at the same time. But it would be for each discussion question just one huge forum. So it got kind of messy. One class had like 10 to 14 kids, so that was smaller. The other one had more of a traditional 25 or 30. So yeah, it got pretty complicated, like who's responding to who, and so that was interesting to look at too. But yeah, each question was like one entire forum thread, and then I apologize, I couldn't actually show the link. I didn't get permission to actually show that, but yeah.